everyone. In today's tactics video, I'm going to review the recent suite of rule changes as they affect Astra Militarum. There is certainly a lot, so strap yourself in. Let's start with the new Warzone Nephilim, which is an evolution of Warzone Nephilim, released back in January this year. So firstly, starting CP has been cut from 12 for a Strike Force game to 6, but with both players gaining a CP in each command phase. So starting with less, but gaining more throughout the game. Also, Warlords no longer get free Warlord traits or relics. And now this is a huge change for anybody with a battalion with a fully spec'd up Warlord starting with only 4 command points. The intent of this is obvious, removing the ability of rapid fire stratagem combos, resulting in some turn 1 alpha strikes. I'd say this may hurt elite armies more so. I'm a part-time Custodies player and haven't not looked at it too much. I'm expecting myself to be starting on about 2 CP most games. As to Astra Militarum, I'm probably going to be always starting on 4 CP, given we'll be investing 1 into a support ace for a full payload Manticore or Basilisk, and another 1 into a Warlord trait that is converted into another support ace. Also, just like everyone else, running multiple detachments is going to be hard. Our same example before, we'll start with only 2 command points if we had a signed patrol, or just 1 command point if we had a spearhead full of Leman Russes. Here, Lord Castellan Creed could be suddenly a great option, given that he grants an additional 2 CP is chosen as your Warlord. Also, Krob's Aquila, or the Grand Strategist Warlord trait, could see more play on account for their ability to generate or recoup a CP on a 5+. Overall, however, I feel this shouldn't impact Astra Militarum too much, more so than other armies in a positive or negative sense. As said, it may force us to be running a single detachment, so putting pressure on additional detachments to earn their keep. Next is the changes to secondary objectives. Interestingly, Stranglehold and To the Last are gone. For Astra Militarum, I'm happy with Stranglehold going. Given the majority of matchups in 5 objective games, our opponent can simply bully us off the center objective. The loss of To the Last could screw some Astra Militarum builds, but I also think it's a good removal, given it encourages a more interactive game, not one where a player plays hide and seek with their key units. Some of the other secondaries have been retuned, with my favourite being Engage All Fronts, requiring the units to be more than 6 inches away from each table quarter, so making it a bit harder in that units can't be just within a table quarter. Assassination has had its wording changed to the destruction of a character unit, not a model, so making the 6 character strong Gaunt's Ghost unit a possibility of fielding. Razor banners has also been slightly tweaked in they can still raise banners even if there's enemies on the objective, and it comes down in the command phase, so making it a bit more reliable. Now on to faction specific ones. Firstly, For the Emperor is gone, but replaced by 4 new ones. Now these are all in different objective clusters, meaning you could take 3 Astra Militarum secondary objectives, as taking only army specific ones is now allowed. So firstly, by Lasgun and Bayonet. Simply destroy an enemy unit that held an objective. Straightforward and should always be easy to score with focused fire. Critically, there appears to be no maximum on how many you can score per turn. So you could whittle down units in 1 turn and score nothing, but the following turn clear them off and score plenty. Just like for the Emperor, this of course depends on how many units is in your opponent's list. An obvious no-no is against low unit count elite armies. Next is Inflexible Command. Score 2 victory points if all infantry units are within 6 inches of an officer, be it a platoon, company, tank commander, Tempestus Prime, Master of Ordnance, Officer of the Fleet, Colonel Strachan, and of course Creed and Knight Commander Pask. It's made easier by boxcasters, allowing it to work 24 inches instead of 6, if the officer is within an inch of a command squad also of a boxcaster. Also score 1 victory point if all Astra Militarum vehicles are within 12 inches of a vehicle officer, so just a tank commander. And score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed by a unit that received an order. I love what they're doing here, encourage you to play your army how they won't realistically play, with officers controlling blocks of units. I also like to think that GW took one of my ideas I suggested in the video, check it out here. However, I feel this could be a bit restrictive. Sure, the Voxcasters allow a further range, but forcing you to keep everything blocked together goes against a fundamental element of gameplay, which is unit movement flexibility. Imagine propelling an infantry squad up the board via move to steal an objective, only to have them out of 24-inch range a turn later, cutting you 2 victory points. I think for vehicles it could either be easier or harder. If you have just Leman Russes and Manticores, for example, you could have a tank commander sitting with Manticores, and another 2 tank commanders with standard Leman Russ buddies or 2. For my list with 2 Chimeras, 2 Scout Sentinels and 2 Hades breaching drills, I'll simply never have all my vehicles within 12 inches of my 3 tank commanders. I'm less positive about this one than I am by Lasgun and Bayonet. Sure, you could field more platoon commanders to make it easier, but then you're just making it even easier to score Assassinate. Right, next is Special Orders. One infantry unit can perform an action on an objective that isn't in your deployment zone, and that unit is within 12 inches of an officer. Critically, the infantry keyword cuts across countless units, including Bograms and Crusaders, and the officer can be a tank commander or standard human. You score 2, 5, 10 or 15 for 1, 2, 3 or 4 plus objectives expunged. Depending on the map, this could be okay. Given you can't perform this on your home objective, means on a 5 objective map, you'd be realistically scoring about 10 on 3 objectives. You could pull a hopeful trick, maybe with a Scion squad and a Tempestus Prime, dropping in a back objective to expunge it. I think depending on the map, Raise the Banners High could be an alternative, given it can be done on your home objective. So my first thoughts on this one is that it's okay in the scheme of things. And lastly is a fun one called Boots on the Ground. Score 1 victory point for each regiment non-character infantry unit in a table quarter from turn 2 onwards, as long as they are more than 6 inches away from the table centre. Also score 1 victory point if you've got a regimental standard within your opponent's deployment zone or within 6 inches of the centre. Again, I love what they're doing here, adding a bit of theatre with a flag bearer taunting the enemy. I might actually paint up a regimental standard now. So this should be easy to get at least 10 victory points, with 2 squads chilling in your 2 home table quarters, and another surviving at least 2 turns in another quarter. Critically, this must be regiment infantry, i.e. Catechins, so Scions can't help here, nor can Bograms or Crusaders. A clever opponent could simply white out your infantry units, starving you of this objective. But personally, I think my 2 Crimeas and my 2 tasty Hades breaching drills with the organic deep strike bringing veterans means I should be able to score at least 4 victory points in 1 turn. This objective would really award infantry heavy lists, like 3 squads in reinforcements for 1 command point, and constantly lock in 3 or 4 victory points per turn. Don't forget regiment infantry units includes heavy weapon teams, command squads, and special weapon teams, which have all been reduced in points, more on that later. So closing off Astra Militarum secondaries, I'm generally positive on them, with by Lasgun and Bayonet and Boots on the Ground being the pick, with Special Orders being an option in certain maps. Inflexible command simply feels oddly too inflexible. As said, unless you're running a ton of platoon commanders with command squads, it'll be hard to maximise. So pausing there, what do you think of the secondaries? Let me know in the comments. I'm personally really looking forward to trying these out, and we won't know how truly effective they are until we play up against other opponents' secondaries. Right now to the point changes. At first glance, there are only 3 with their base cost changing. Yarrick increased by 5 to 110 points, which is unnecessary. Bograms decreased by 5 to 30 each, and Sentinels increased to 40 by 5 points, with all their shooters now being free. As said, Yarrick increasing at all is comical, given at 110 points, he's only 10 points cheaper than a Custodes Blade Champion that is a walking blender. Bograms decreasing is great, and it may potentially offset the fact that AP-1 batons are AP 0 against a large cohort of opponents on account for Armour of Content. Sentinels increasing by 5 but getting free shooters is okay, but for me, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, It's actually an increase of 5 points, given you never actually ran them with any weapons to keep their points cost down prior to this change. As the other point changes, I won't go through them in detail as they're plentiful. I'll put a link to a great article by Tabletop Tactics in the video description if you want to see them in more detail. But basically, a lot of infantry pistol, melee, some special and heavy weapons are now for free. Interestingly, special weapon teams now get their special weapons for free. Veteran squads get heavy weapons for free, but not special weapons, and heavy weapon teams are now able to get heavy weapons all for free. Regiment banners are also for free, and so are med packs, if you fancy statistically healing 2 wounds per game, on account for the fact you're rolling a 4+. Another nice change is that Baneblade sponsons are now 30 points, not 50 points, and all the mini shooters like heavy stuffers are free, meaning a standard Baneblade now costs you 470 as opposed to 510 EP. Although seriously, also the CP cost of fielding a super heavy detachment has been removed, as long as the keyword matches your warlord. As wider context, having browsed Tyranids, Tau and Aldari, they've all experienced wide-scale point increases, which is obviously completely warranted. All Chaos Demons remain the same, with the same for Custodes except for their key hero Trajan, whom increased by 40 points to 200 points, a 25% increase, which whilst being really steep is very warranted. I've played that miniature and he's an absolute steal at 160 points. Overall for Guard, I don't think this round of point decreases is going to revolutionise us. It'll see a bit more play of some niche infantry units, but given as said none of our heavy hitters will change, it won't be a driving force of change this time round. And finally, the balanced data slate. Now this is where we can start to bang together our Dixie cans in the mess queue. Hammer of the Emperor now includes all Astra Militarum units. So Commissars, Scions, Ratlings and even Bulgrams are now auto-wounding on 6s to hit in the shooting phase. As a standard requirement for Scions, an assigned detachment to all be from the same regiment, but this is great, even if it just simplifies the game a bit. It's nice to know that your Bulgram frag bombs are also auto-wounding on 6s to hit. Next, Astra Militarum Titanic, including the Baneblade and all Forge World Titanic models, have now finally got a 2+ save. Hallelujah. Why they didn't get these at the same time as Leman Russ or even before the Leman Russ is a bit weird, but this is obviously great. Our 26 wound vehicle fortress with the Baneblade is now going to be saving on a 6+ against melter guns. Couple this with the point reductions by 40 points across the 2 sponsons, and you could almost imagine fielding this thing on the tabletop again. But the real killer for the Baneblade and all Astra Militarum vehicles is that the power armoured cowards are now showing the Armour of Contempt rule with us as well. This cleared pretty huge in Leman Russ and Baneblade on a practical 1+ save. Obviously vehicles can't sit in cover to have a 0+ save, but this is going to really add up. Like when Leman Russ first moved to a 2+ save in the first balanced data slate, this impact will be gradual. Now all vehicles benefit from this, and my Scions, Chimeras, Leman Russes and my 2 Hades breaching drills will certainly stick around a little bit longer. As you know, Hammer of the Emperor applies to both shooting and melee, which is great. Now I do think of it, you could bring an Astropath to cast Psychic Barrier on a Baneblade, and we'd have basically a 0+ save. But Armour of Contempt on vehicles throws a bit of a theoretical spanner in the works. Given 3 of the Astra Militarum secondaries centre around infantry units, which obviously don't benefit from Armour of Contempt, which way do army list builds go? Do you lean into the secondaries and the free war gear across infantry units and field more infantry? Or do we go with vehicles, taking full advantage of Armour of Contempt, perhaps playing multiple Leman Russes? Personally, I think I'll stick with my single battalion list, dropping a single Scion squad and 2 Sentinels for another infantry squad, a special weapon team, and a free regimental banner on one of my command squads. I look forward to trying it all out. So there you have it, my thoughts on all the changes. Some exciting stuff in there, and let me know what you think about them. But more critically, let me know how you find playing the new rules once you get your first game in or 2. Thanks for watching. Patron Platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeants Brady, O'Dell, Gilliam, Merrill, Veteran Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Witten, Guardsman Combs, Flint, Heels, Malek, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin, Conscript Craft, Conscript England,